All right, oxyacetylene gas welding cutting. Perhaps you and over the history going back with the return of the century for aptitude and appearance of the films and popular imagery, the gas cutting and welding has moved with the romantic image of various welding systems. The welding within the book, the most common to people that contribute with the vision of the welder in the light of the perspiring, leather-clad man, whether wearing dark guy with the welding of the flame torch with the sparks flying with everywhere. The truth is, the more the picture than sometimes the one cutting with a torch rather than welding. But it's the point of the aquacious picture nature of the gas equipment is overall the welding picture. Although loosening the ground of the modern electric welder, the most recent decade of the welding system, the choice of the average home and shop, use of the oxyacetylene equipment is arguably the most variable setup of the home and the farm and shop. Because of the function of the fusion joined with the metals and gas equipment, also in conjunction with extremely valuable metal cutting equipment, can also be used with the non-fusion metal boilers such as brazing, soldering, and dyeing art of the automotive body lead work. And it's useful equipment of the automotive shop, the freeing the just rust of the fasteners, heating the machine parts that they require hot shrinking, the fitting of the connection with the like of the gear shaft, the heating the metal with the parts prior to bending them. If it requires no water, electrical connections, making them one of those portable systems you can load and pick up with the truck and then take it if any of the remote location. If the gas is large enough, the welder can climb up and pull down and shaft them to the perform of the welding, cutting, and the flexible from the further other welding systems can match. 3-1 versatile gas welding equipment that has been mainstay with medical fabricating with most of the 20th century list of the change procedure of equipment. The basic fusion metals or melting point are still valid for many uses in farm industry and home shop home applications. 3-2 you will find help with the people locating welding supply store. You can also set up the torch equipment, oxyacetylene bottles, and other supplies you need. The basic gas process. The process used in other type of welding is usually inherited like argon, CO2, and helium, which are involved with the welding process only to keep the molten welded puddle clear and impurities from the air during the formation. The oxyacetylene welding cutting, however, gases are what make the flame itself. The oxyacetylene gas is quite flammable and combined with the oxygen, which makes it doesn't burn with the speed of the oxidation burning without any other fuel, makes one of the hottest possible gases, 56,000, 63,000 degrees Fahrenheit, suitable for the rapid welding, the cutting, the heating of the most ferrous and unferrous metals. Although the compressed gas poses some shop hazards because of the pressures inside the bottles and the oxygen and silicon considerable than any dangerous to working around, require more caution and call for the attention of the safety rules. All right, 3-3. Looking, you see your oxygen regulator, acetylene regulator, the acetylene tank hose, and torch and acetylene tank, oxygen tank. All right, 3-4. The typical good and general purpose welding cutting with the heating of the individual in an ideal automotive motor shop at the farm trade school. Starter set have the smaller torches and the 10 to 12 foot hose. Bigger sets have the larger torch and 25 foot hose. Oxygen will not exactly oxygen while not exactly flammable itself with the gas nearly necessary both to fuse breathing for any of the type of the combination take place. The combination really nothing more than the rapid oxidation. Pure oxygen directed within some of the thing with the flammable fire can be very easily. Some experienced welders have been known to have dust their work clothes and with their until their gas is torch. But the extent of the oxygen that goes into the clothes can be made flammable with a tiny spark or could start clothes on fire. Likewise, oxygen gas must be kept away from the other things for the oil rags and petroleum products. Oxygen used with the welding equipment is generally stored in the high pressure 1/4 inch thick wall. The steel cylinders are 2200 psi with the oxygen may be important for our lungs to work, and they still can be dangerous much for the introduction of the bloodstream for the reason that oxygen should be kept away from the open cup such as you might have on your hands. Silicon gas, on the other hand, with a hand of flammable to the point of being with explosive, the mid of poison, for causing nausea, the headaches, and the breathing of it. Older readers may remember the using the carbonide cannon on the 4th of July when there were kids. Small quality pellets were in small metal cannons which had held some of the water the gas was produced inside with the flint spark mechanism on the top. The result with a tremendous bang with the pellets were calcium carbonate with the gas produced for the acetylene. The pressure for the acetylene gas was much less than the oxygen, 250 to 325 psi, but put in the construction of the cylinder with them different. With the acetylene cylinders are shorter than 5 fatter than the oxygen bottles, which are constructed with the 2 halves because the acetylene is unstable at high pressure. The only way to do sufficient quantity of standard bottle to dissolve the acetylene into another medium in welding tank. The 2 halves after filled with the asbestos cement mixture, then welding together and baking the metal to form the honeycomb inside the tank liquid and acetone with which the tank becomes. It will absorb 25 times its own volume with the acetylene gas with the stabilizing acetylene. We cover the difference with the chemical action stored with the oxygen and acetylene. There must be no pickup between the two, and these reefs of the tanks are made with a different portion with a different color. The acetylene bottle has only left-hand threads, and the hose of each of the bottle is different. The red hose with the acetylene torch, the green hose with the oxygen. Both of the bottles threaded with the filling and the connection regulators due to their internal pressure, especially with the oxygen cylinder gas bottles, should always be stored securely. The bottle will fall. The bottle were to fall on the truck or on cement. Onto cement, for instance, the regulator could be knocked off the solid, releasing enough gas to propel the heavy bottle around like a kid's balloon, especially with the potentially deadly force. An additional acetylene bottle should always be stored in an upright position, stored laying down. Some of the liquid acetylene inside of the could have drawn out with the bottle and welding supply and ruin the weld. 3.5. There must be no mixing of the gases, so the oxygen hoses are colored in green and the acetylene hose is red. And the acetylene hose have left-hand threads and identified with a groove and cut around the images. The torch acetylene valve, the torch gas valve, the right-hand thread nut, the left-hand thread nut, and the green oxygen hose, red fuel gas hose. The equipment, the basic two gas valve, there are two gauges. Gauges, regulators, hose with the torches themselves. Each gas tank has its own set of gauges mounted with the regulator body with designed to reduce the high pressure down with the usable pressure torch. Alright, 3.6. The gas bottles are fitted with the valve with the which regulator with the attached with the cutaway with the oxygen cylinder valve with the show with the valve. The valve seals internally with the oxygen cylinder valve sealed the best for the either closed and fully open. Alright, a hand wheel carrier, packing nut, brass washer, rubber packing washer, spindle, valve seat, and safety disc. 3.7. The heavy-duty torch setup with the trade master for the LTEC have the torch capable of welding a 3/8 steel cutting up to 1 1/2 inch steel, hating of the capability of the 103,000 BTUs per hour. 3. The high portable kangaroo, often everything you need in a small package, including the polyurethane car kit. This does not have a lot of time capacity, but it's probably the maintenance work of metal sculptures, automotive shop that do not use torch often. 3.9. Cutting on the way to single regulatory shop that has the cylinder pressure with adjustable down to the usable range. Welding, there are two gauges attached to it. One shows the total pressure in left and cylinder, the one shows the adjusted pressure in the supply torch. Or you have your cylinder pressure gauge, your valve stem, seat screw, diaphragm, valve stem guide, pressure adjusting spring, valve spring closed, and the pressure adjusting screw. Your filter, your inlet screw, inlet valve, inlet nut, valve stem, and the valve seat and outlet connection. Alright, on the gauge inside of the pressure tank, while the other gauge reads the pressure for after the regulator, which for the press is delivered to the torch, very important in the adjustment of acetylene welding. There are two basic types of regulators found on the gas welding setup: a single stage and the two-stage form of the reduce the cylinder pressure, the working pressure of just one step, saying the oxygen 2200 psi to 3 psi for the torch, and two-stage regulator. The first stage reduces about pressure to about 30 psi. The second stage adjusts the pressure from there down. The greater the portion expansion of the gas welding setup that comes from the gas regulators and better ones. Simply the cost more. Simple to manufacture. Single set of the regulators cost less and therefore commonly found on the less expensive kits for the acetylene welding. They work fine in purpose and they are only drawback. The gauge and regulator set up with the screws on the tank. The cylinder valve has a fitting of the attaching the hose leading the torch. You see the has a pressure adjusting screw with a CGA cylinder connection. There's working pressure gauge and a cylinder pressure gauge. The hose connection left hand to the threads and the fuel gas and the right hand to the oxygen. 3.11. The connectors are available to add hose onto the start set with a little longer working distance if you need it. The screw into your hose with the extra new the hoses screws are on the other side. Alright, the drawback, but the regulation depends on the heavily excess of pun with the pressure inside the tank. If the pressure goes down, the pressure evens up. The regulation changes must adjust again, but then doing the job of the requirement of the gas flow. A lot of gas flows just for large welds, cutting the heating of the thick blade. Single-stage regulator may not be able to cut. The more expensive two-stage regulator maintain gas flow with the torch for less fluctuation, which is important for the professional welding operation. May not be a big factor for the home shopping welding, and they do not work over the heavier metals of these gas welding set. of two regulators cost more initially than a single stage kits. The hose of the gas welding setup with the specially designated to carry the oxygen silicone gases below why they do they handle to verify the high tank pressure of the barrier. They were built with a 3-layer withstand the regulator pressure for the many years the proper care from the maintenance. As they mentioned, the hose carrying the silicone is red, the oxygen code's green, and the silicone hose with the left-hand threads on the fitting of the layer. There's no chance of mixing them with making the connection. The left-hand fittings generally with the groove and the cutting with the round. The fitting would differentiate from the normal the right-hand fitting for doing the soak of the deesters, and so any residual flame hose gases, other material hose connected with pure oxygen could cause the high ignition of chemical compounds for any of the kind of the use of the hoses, high hose ignition for the night and explode. For the same reason, the important no lubrication chemical compounds or any of the kind of the use of the hose fittings or gas welding packages may contain around 10 to 12 feet long, and the economy light duty kits of 20 to 25 feet long. Heavier, more professional set expansion test hoses can also be added to your starter set if you need to reach as far where is from further from your tanks. 312 shows the industrial situation like with the off-field surface of the truck gas welding setup that must be equipped with large cylinders, 100 feet of hose to handle the situation. 313, with the clever setup of the hose and torch with attached with the swing weight arm with the excess of the tank with the servicing arrow indicate the retaining plate with a simple sail wedge rod. Tanks that are held with securely but are chained quickly without wrenches. 314, basic torch sets include from the top cutting with the torch attachment, and the basic torch has varying welding tips size of the different type. A different thickness for the material and bottom of the rosebud tip of the heating enlarged in areas. Alright, 315. When assembling the welding tip of the hose, the silicone welding torch looks like the two gases are controlled in separate knobs and they are mixed inside of the torch body. Alright, you have the silicone hose and red oxygen hose and red thread fittings on the groove, and the silicone fitting to prevent the mixing with the hose, the silicone valve, oxygen valve, your handle, the mixing head, and the tip. The torch of the silicone welding is precision made tool. We usually construct with the forged brass body, but the two knobs controlling the gas flow, the control copper tip with the various size, and use for the two gas flows for the valve to control with the knob, the mixing inside of the torch with the complete with the gases coming out of the tip of the oxygen silicone ratio controlled by the welder. The welder changes the tip of the wish with the carefully side of the opening of the gas flow with the flame of the shape of the required for the particular job. The makeup of the cutting torch is different from the welding torch will be discussed later. The gas welding set for the purchase 3-way for the welding only setup, cutting only setup with the combination setup of the two torches. Those with the type of the which depending on the need. If you all need is to weld an animal coral fence made through the steel pipe that you may use for the cutting only the cast cutting with the cutting of the pipes in length with the strength, the shaping with the cut end for the fitting of it again for the next pipe. Use the generator driven arc welder on the truck with the joining with the pipe. However, if you are doing automotive sheet metal work, the metal sculptures relatively thin materials will probably do most of the cutting on the electrical shear hand and snips and hacksaw, and only require the torch welding, the brazing, and occasionally a heating. The combination the set of the cores of the most versatile most sets that you buy can be fitted with a different torch at any time. There you decide to buy the welding only setup kit. You can purchase the cutting torch later if you need it. After you purchase the welding package, you will have to buy with the rent of the tank standardized size of the oxygen silicone tank with hold enough gas to last home shop user for a long time. The tanks of the hydrostatically test periodically involve filling them with water to contain a certain pressure for the test for the safety of the test to do. The locally gas supply cannot refill the tank until it has been tested. When you buy the new tanks outright, you can become responsible for the testing cost of any cylinder valves repairs while releasing the cylinder. The gas company takes care of that part of the leasing agreement. Leasing of the cylinder allows you to get started welding the minimum investment because of the outright purchase of the more expensive. However, if you add monthly rent. 316. You'll never have the call to disassemble the torch this far, but these are internal components such as the torch requires the wrenches, chains, tips, heads, while others kerneled the hand tray and tighten connectors. Your replacement gas inlet valve stem, your stainless steel ball set valve assembly, a non-slip grip, internal tubes, the laminar flow device eliminates turbulence and flashback, your torch head, your O-rings, your mix for gases, mixer for mix of the gases, your tip assembly, and separable swab tip. 317, each with a little flea circular figure of the welded up, complete with a thin weld rod with the tiny blobs of the molten metal. The artistic weld works with the very small with the welding of the tips of the tremendously patient, showing that they can work that what can be done and skill with imagination. 318 with the small, medium, large welding cylinders contain the 150, 275 cubic feet gases. Some of the manufacturers label their letter designation as well as the welding supply shop approximately how long each of the size would last in terms of the welding, choosing according to your needs. All right, the changes. You'll find that after 2 years of leasing, you have purchased the tanks outright for the same money. Most leases that run from 5 to 99 years, but if you move another area of the different gas company located, you may be able to return your tank's original location where you leased them and get back a prorated portion that began with the new less account of the area to move with the local and your local telephone. Nice. Yellow Pages, gases, industrial welding supplies. There are usually three sides of the tank: small 80 cubic foot, medium 150 cubic foot, large 275 cubic foot. The small tanks are easiest and stored to maneuver around the shop and find most applications. The medium tanks will be more than enough for any home use, less than more than under normal use. The largest tanks are heavy and more difficult to move around the shop. Getting started with the oxyacetylene.